Namaskar, hello, and a very, very, very good evening. This is Friday, and yet another episode of Dulhan Diaries, partnered by Senco Gold Diamonds. Dulhan Diaries is a show যেখানে the whole objective was and is যাদের বাড়িতে হচ্ছে বিয়ে, whenever there is a wedding, it should be grand, it should be planned well in advance with all your checklists in place. And we also celebrate the lovely couples যারা থাকে happily ever after. Joining us all the way from USA is this lovely couple, and they are too sweet, too cute, and I'm really happy that in spite of having a very busy schedule, they have made time to join us. So let's introduce Ritama, Gupta, Demsey, and Jeff Demsey. Hi, welcome to the show.
Hello.
Hi.
So the first thing is that we would want you to introduce yourselves, as in what you all do, where you all live, how long y'all are married for, and how did y'all meet?
My name is Jeff Demsey. This is Ritama Gupta Demsey. We've been married for 8 years. We met in the city of Philadelphia, and we had very diverse work backgrounds and obviously different backgrounds generally. We currently live in the state of Pennsylvania, midway between Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. And in terms of profession, I serve as a lobbyist for an association that represents people who buy and sell properties.
I'm the director of clinical data disclosure at a pharmaceutical company. So yeah, I think I kind of echo everything that Jeff has said.
And not with us today is our beautiful son, Jude Gauri Gupta Demsey. He is 3 years old as of last month and couldn't be with you all today as he's in school.
Yes.
So what led to your meeting? Because you both are, from different backgrounds. I'm sure university was not the place. So where did you all meet? How did the story begin? Ritama and Jeff, let's start with your love story.
So we met in Philadelphia, which is called the city of brotherly love and sisterly affection. Again, going back to our backgrounds, my background was very much in politics, nonprofit work, legislation. Ritama's background was very much in the hard sciences, given the fact that she has a PhD in immunology. So we met through some mutual acquaintances and a desire to find people who were outside of our comfort zone and who would push and try us to be different and a little bit better. We look at things a little differently, but I think what evident from the very beginning was a commitment to a certain set of values and beliefs and goals that we wanted in life. And everything else was just sort of figuring it out along the way. And there was a lot to figure out along the way, and we're still working on it. But it's a commitment to doing that work that I think keeps us in a strong place.
Yeah. And I'll say that at the time that we started dating, and this was in 2017, is that right?
Yeah.
We were both on, as is the case sometimes with our generation, we were both on online dating sites, and we did come across each other on an online dating site, and we had, mutual acquaintances, and that just kind of brought us together. There were like different avenues. So I should give a nod to tech that it brought us together. And I think on our first date, we went to a bar in Philadelphia, and I didn't know what to expect. And I was just kind of, I think at that time in my life, I did not have much expectations from dating. And then we met, and I thought it was fine. And I did not, I wasn't super interested in a second date, but we had already made a second date, and then we went on a second date. And I think from the second date, things just started to, fall into place a little bit. Would you say?
Sure. And in the planning of that second date, which, is taking place via texting and whatnot, it was clear that there was a rapport and a style of communication that Ritama and I, we discovered, and I think it's kind of been consistent, right? The fact that we were not afraid to push on each other and to maybe challenge each other in a certain way. So that was pretty clear even in the planning of that second date. But it was clear early on that this was something that we both wanted, and I think that we would get a real kick out of each other.
Yeah. And now it's been 8-9 years since we've met. So yeah.
I must say that you both make one of the best couples I know, and I'm so happy that you both could make time tonight. Night for me, day for you. It's always the case, and I'm so bad with the time
Oh,
zone. But I'm so glad, Ritama, that you could make that time. So now I have a very important question. Dating to saying yes to a marriage, that's quite a journey, okay? And you both travel that very fast, it seems. So, what were the basic things that you all loved about each other, approved of each other, and hence y'all live happily ever after?
as a background, since both of us have dated in the past and thought about partners and being married, etc., I found that with Jeff it was very natural, and there was no debating or thinking, is this person right, is this person wrong. It was almost like a switch where I know this is it, this is the person, and it was just almost instinctive. I think I just knew from the beginning. And I think we got married maybe 8 months after we met, 9 months, something like that, in Philly. And there was no doubt in my mind. And I think which is a strange place to go from not knowing somebody and being kind of like, oh, I don't know if I'm into this person, and then going into, this is the person I'm going to marry. But I'll say sometimes just not overthinking is good. Sometimes there's a lot of like thought and input and feedback from friends and family, etc., that goes into it. But at the end of the day, I think you will know what is good for you. You know yourself the best, and you know what you're looking for in your life, and you want to be with somebody you can communicate, somebody you respect. And sometimes it just comes very instinctively, at least it did for us. And I know that it's a big cultural deviation from where I come from, but it just kind of, I have no regrets. And I think part of it is because I just kind of went with the flow and with my like kind of gut feeling that this is it, this is the person, and this is the person I'm going to do this with.
And I think what can allow for that instinctive feeling and just sort of focusing on that would be that it was very clear with us early on, both a desire of the same set of principles, right? The things that are important to her are important to me. A desire for the same set of goals, what we wanted from ourselves, from our partner, from our lives. And then also a communication style. It was, Ritama alluded to the fact that her nor I were strangers to the dating community. As I kind of often highlight, communicating with her felt very different than anyone else I had communicated with. There was a naturalness to it and an almost innate understanding. And I think the fact that we were already together on the goals, we were already there on the communication and on the values, I think really allowed for that expediency to take place and to not quite be so jarring. And of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't highlight the fact that both her and I have really strong network of friends, family who are supportive and trusting, who allow for, want to make sure Ritama was making a good decision, but at the same time didn't want to overly dictate, and then trust in her to know what she wanted and trust in her judgment. And the same for me, having a set of family and friends who were supportive and trusting of me.
Amazing. So tell us some qualities, Jeff, that you really love about your wife, and it goes to you also, dear wife. Tell us what you love most about your husband.
Sure. There are a few people, I dare say there are very, very few people, if any at all, who are as determined as Ritama. And that determination, certainly given her just incredible academic and professional background, demonstrates itself there. But that determination also goes to the way she treats her family, her friends, her loved ones, her commitment and desire to see something through. Ritama said very early on when we were talking about marriage, she said, I'm Bengali, I'm Indian, I don't believe in divorce. And it's that commitment to see things through. Look, we're a couple. We live together. We have a child together. There's going to be times where there's friction, where we don't get along, where we may fight, but it's a commitment to work through issues as opposed to just ignore them or put them to bed. That's one example of again, that commitment, that perseverance, that tenacity that she has. And Ritama's done just remarkable things in her life. She literally came to a country where she knew no people, in a hurricane with limited resources to pursue a dream. And again, I think that's just yet another example of her perseverance and her dedication that she extended to everything, her academics, her career, and now her life and her family. So I mean, I'm constantly struck by it. It never ceases to amaze me, and it also makes me better because I know that we can get through things together. We can get through challenging things, and life, as we all know, there's no shortage of challenging things to work through. And I'm glad I get to do it with her.
Yeah, well, I don't have anything to match up to that. So I'll just say that I think what drew me to Jeff was just his kindness. Because I am inherently not very kind to myself, and to have someone who is kind to me has been transformative for me in my life. And as a person in both at work, in my personal life, with my kid, I'm a very disciplined and determined person. And I think Jeff brings that flexibility, that space to allow me to be myself and to breathe. And that was really important. I'd say the other thing is that I just have a lot of respect for him, for what he does and how he is as a person. And that is very important to me. It's hard for me to be with somebody I do not respect fundamentally. So I think these are the two things. And then I think it's just the general comfort of being somebody you know is just your person. And that was there right from the beginning. And I think that comfort just seeps in, and it's a special kind of comfort because we're coming from two very different cultures. So to be able to still see that see that comfort and just be okay with it and move through it, I think that's important too. And Jeff has made that easy.
How cute. Now tell us about the grand wedding. So there was this American chapter and the gala Kolkata scene. So tell us how the wedding was.
Do you want to
go?
Sure. I'll maybe talk about the American chapter.
You can do the Philly one.
That seems natural.
Yeah.
So the American chapter was originally going to be very pared down, and that we were going to do just sort of what they call a signing ceremony, something very small, very official, in the sort of courthouse or municipal building. The problem was, because of my professional experience, I have done work in that municipal building, so it lost a lot of grandeur. It was not really a nice place to do it in my view because of my work there. So then it started changing a bit. We said, well, let's maybe find a nicer venue, and we found a beautiful park. And then we started inviting some people. And of course, with any wedding, the minute you start inviting a few people, you start inviting more people. Because there's always more people. And then, of course, it became very clear that there were going to be some people who would not be able to come to India to celebrate our union. So then that took on a different shade too. So we decided, so the Philadelphia wedding got a bit bigger, but it was also at a time in our lives where, as you alluded to, we were really just getting started in many ways, not just in terms of our relationship, but also in terms of our careers. So there was a certain scrappiness to it, a certain do-it-yourself aspect, but I really appreciate that because it was us coming together to try to make something beautiful, and we did. It was a beautiful ceremony on an April day. The weather in April can always be a gamble. We actually had tremendous rain the entire week leading up to the wedding day, but the wedding day itself was beautiful and sunny and felt like a summer's day. And then was immediately followed by ice cold rain and a temperature drop. So it was almost as if the weather itself had parted just for us to have this special ceremony. And it was a beautiful ceremony. It was in a city that has come to mean so much to me. It's a city where my family was started. And it was nice to get to restart my family, or this next generation of it, in that city as well. And we were surrounded by friends and family, and it was really special. And it was nice because, like I said, there was this aspect that we did a lot to make it happen. And it was not just something that we enjoyed celebrating, but also something that we were very proud of, that we were proud that we had pulled off and created. Yeah.
The city's Philadelphia, by the way, in case it wasn't clear. So yeah, the Philly wedding was great. We had a great time. It was very small. And even though we did so much, it was very small in comparison to our wedding in Calcutta. And I think I just kind of let my parents take the reign with the wedding in Calcutta. So they did so much of heavy lifting with the wedding. I'm very grateful to them because it can't have been easy. So they did a lot of work with the Calcutta wedding. And then we had friends from the United States and Europe traveling in and arranging their accommodations and just, you know, all of it, their first time being in India, etc. So I think
it was my first time in India.
Oh yeah, that too, right. So I would say that, you know, a big shout out to my parents who brought it all together. I am as a bride, I think I'm not as invested in some of the things that brides are generally very invested in, like, you know, the sari you wear or how your makeup is done or what kind of jewelry you're wearing. I just kind of left it all to my friends and family. My friends also kind of banded together and figured things out. And I was just like, as long as everyone is happy, I will wear whatever sari you give me. I will, you know, whatever jewelry, whatever you want to eat, that's fine with me. I just wanted to make sure everybody was comfortable. And the best part of the wedding for me was really getting to see my entire family and friends, everybody come together in one place and being able to share that part of my life with my friends and family back in the United States. That for me was that was the biggest part of the wedding for me. And now looking back, it's just all such a blur that day. But overall, I think that week, that was the best part, being able to share it with my family and friends. I think more so than getting married to him.
And well, in two notes, I would just like to say about the Indian wedding. Number one, Ma Baba, I think not only did a remarkable job with the planning and execution, but I do want to highlight the fact that they were very, I think they struck a great balance of observing tradition, but at the same time recognizing some things that maybe either needed to be a little slightly different, right, given some of the folks that were coming along, or even just some things that maybe we wanted to do that were a little counter to tradition. I think they struck that balance very well, still honored their culture and heritage, but at the same time made room for things that, you know, we wanted or that we needed. One fun note about the wedding, it was not without some drama. I did get ill in between one of the ceremonies and then the ceremony of the large day. Which was a fun little threat, a little scare that kept everyone on their toes. But you know, I had a quick recovery and you know was able to obviously do the wedding the way that it needed to be done. But it was a fun little last minute scare that kept everyone on their toes.
Yeah, because he ate. I think we were having like some kind of mehendi function, and somebody had brought in chop. And he was not supposed to eat that, and he did. So
I did. I mean, the price was I had the misfortune of eating less mutton during the actual ceremony because Ritama kept me on a very strict diet after that.
So I wouldn't let him like eat meat and stuff after that. But yeah, so he ate the chop, and then he got very sick. And I remember the night of the cocktails, he was very sick. And then we had 2 days until the wedding. And then we went into the wedding, and I think it went more or less okay.
It did.
So it was Jeff Jamai with the topor and everything. Was it the conventional way? Let's have a little description.
He had the whole topor and Punjabi, and my mom welcomed him. So we did I'd like to think all of the traditional kind of things that we do. And I had my friends and Jeff's friends kind of lift me up in the piri and carry me around him. And, you know, we had the priest, and my dad was very involved trying to explain things to the priest. And the priest also was able to communicate with Jeff, which worked out fine. And, you know, then I had friends from my side who were or from Jeff's side who was trying to protect his shoes. But then there were cousins from my side who were trying to steal the shoes. We had a little bit of fun with that.
Admittedly, and this is not a form of jingoism, but the U.S. contingent was successful in keeping the shoes away from the cousins.
That was a huge thing.
It is worth noting that.
Yeah, the U.S. people were able to hold on to the shoes while the cousins were trying to grab the shoes. It was a thing, but I thought we had some fun with that. And then the food was delicious. I got to see so many people I hadn't seen in like years. And, I did a little thing with my friends before the actual wedding and, getting ready and whatnot. It was nice. I loved it. Every aspect of it. It seems like such a blur, but, the pictures remind us, and sometimes we'll go back and look at the pictures and, yeah.
And we're excited to share that with our son, who's been to India as well, and will go many times over. But, I think he gets a kick out of seeing those pictures too, even at his early age.
Yeah.
So let's know a little about Jude Gauri Gupta Demsey. Would you like to explain the name to all of us, as in the Gauri Gupta Demsey part?
My paternal grandmother is Gauri Gupta. So she is my father's mother, and I was very close to her growing up. I have been told that I'm a little bit like her, which I take as a compliment. And I think I wanted to recognize and include her in some way as I started this journey. And I'm very sad that she couldn't meet Jude, because she passed away, several years before Jude was born, or even Jeff and I met. But I know that she would have really enjoyed meeting Jude, and I like being able to carry a little part of her as Jude grows up. So in the United States, there's this, I don't know, a custom or something where you have a middle name. Jeff has a middle name, Adam, I don't. So when we were trying to figure out the middle name, we thought Gauri would be a good middle name for him to know where I come from, where our roots are, and just as a reminder of the fact that, she lives on through the next generation. So that is the Gauri bit. And then I will let Jeff talk about Jude and how the Jude thing came up.
Sure. Well, before I will say it is, from all that I have heard of Gauri, it is clear that Ritama and Gauri are very similar. And as I watch our son grow and develop into the person he's going to become, I think he has much in common with Ritama, and I suspect with his, great-grandparent. So I think the name is fitting, because I think there's certainly going to be a through line of her through all these people. In terms of Jude, there is a slight and unofficial tradition on my parental side of the family, or paternal side of the family rather, that everybody has a name that begins with the letter J. So my dad, it was one of 5. All 5 in his family have names that begin with J. And I wanted to keep that. I'm not particularly tied to my familial traditions, but that was one that was a little important to me. So when we were trying to figure out a first name, we wanted to have that J be a part there. And Jude was an interesting name in the sense that, we were traveling to a friend's wedding. When Ritama was pregnant, we were talking about names. We kind of put that one out there into the ether. We said it, and it just sort of sat. And as we would think about it again, we would revisit the conversation. We would try to come back with other names. None of them felt as natural or as good as Jude. It just always seemed to magically click, like so much in our story. So when that happens, it's best not to push against it. There were some people early on who didn't seem as hip to the name as we did, but nevertheless, now that he's here, I think it's a perfect name for him. I think it exhibits his unique features and quality, and I think there is something about the name that very much works with him, and I can't wait to see him grow into it more.
And the name has come up in music and literature and books we've read and songs we've heard. So it wasn't a heavy lift for us. Right. And then the last name is just hyphenated, Gupta -Demsey, because there's no way he was going to go out into the world without my last name. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Awesome. And he's such a bundle of sunshine. We bless him. Now, coming to both of you, I'm sure there are differences of opinion, and sometimes there are yes and no issues. How do you resolve your conflict as a couple, and how do you all arrive at the parental decisions when it comes to Jude's upbringing?
Well, I would start with maybe a part of your question. I think when there are disagreements or friction or disputes or whatever you want to call it, you have to have a commitment to resolve them. And I think that's something that's been there early on. I do remember when we first started dating, there was a night we had a fight. We were out at a restaurant. There was, who knows what it was about, but there was a fight. And we had just started dating, so there was no expectation to stay, to work it out. We could have just parted ways and went back to our respective homes and whatever. And at the time I said, I'm not going to do that. I'm not leaving. We are going to work through this. And I think that was a trait, that moment, we've talked about it since then, was really important because it showed that we are going to have a commitment to each other, that when there are friction points or fights or whatever, to be committed to working through them, to finding a solution. So that commitment has to be there. And I think with us, it certainly is. When it comes to disagreements about parenting, there's not a lot there because, again, I think we have to have core values. One area where I think it was important for an American and an Indian to fully understand and be adoptive of is clearly, as my understanding of Indian culture, the strong dedication to academics is critical. And that's something that can be and has to be unwavering. And I think as a partnership, my commitment to that, echoing Ritama's commitment to that, is something that I think allows us to have, not as much friction because we're already there. I suspect some couples could struggle if they didn't have that common understanding or that common desire right off the bat, and that would show up later on. But I think before we even had kids, we talked about it, and it's an area that we're on the same page of.
Yeah, and we there's certainly disagreements, but I think when it comes to the kid, we are always pretty much on the same page. With if the kid wants to do something, like he wants candy at a store and we're not gonna let him have the candy, there's never one parent who's like, oh, you can have the candy. We both know, no, this is not okay. But we also have that thing where we will tap each other in, because Jeff and I are the only people that watch the kid. We don't have an au pair. We don't have someone helping us. We don't have family here that's going to watch the kid. It's just me, him, and the daycare. So I think if it becomes, and we both have full-time jobs and careers that we are, really actively trying to grow. So, there's often difficult days with the kid when it's just me, Jeff, and the kid is having a hard time. And if, there's one parent handling the kid and the other parent has to go into a work call, or, I have a work meeting, and then Jeff will be like, you go do your work, I have the kid. And same with me. I know if Jeff has, a work thing that he has to go to, or he just needs to take a break, I can swoop in and help out. And I think, especially in kind of the situation where we are, where it's just the two of us and there's no help with the kid per se, it's very important to have a partner who can meet you at your level and tag you in when you need the help.
I think a recognition that, especially when it comes to our son, he is no one person's responsibility more than the other, and making the space for the other person after days that are maybe a little longer with Jude. There are moments where her and I are checking in with each other. Are you okay? What happened there? What do you think? What can I do? What do you need? And really making that time for each other. Because we're going through this, and neither one of us stopped being who we are just because we have a kid, right? Our wants, needs are still there, and we're also still changing. And kind of giving each other that grace and that support, I think, is something that's helped us to be a little bit, successful in this thing. And just going back to something that she had said, knowing that each other has strengths and weaknesses. There are things that Ritama does a lot better than I do, and vice versa. And using those strengths in the appropriate times to help everything out, I think is just a good strategy to have.
Yeah, I think it's very important to have a partner who will show up for the kid, irrespective of the gender, whether it's the husband or the wife or the woman or whatever. Because I have, when it comes to Jeff, I have the same expectations as I have for myself, which means that he has done everything: changing diapers, watching the kid, potty training, bath time, bedtime, cooking, cleaning, everything. And there was a 3-week period when I was traveling for work earlier this year, and he watched the kid the whole time. And, it's not easy to do that as one parent, because I've done the same. But I think it's very important for both parents to show up together. And it just makes it a little bit easier. So
being married to a Bengali girl, Jeff, have you picked up any Bangla?
Not enough. Not enough. I will say, though, there has been, I think, as I have been continuing to learn more about Bengali culture, I genuinely love it. And I mean, how can you not respect such a rich, beautiful culture when it comes to Bengali literature? Luckily, our Baba is very, very well read and loves sharing, and I love sharing literature with him. Obviously, Bengali cuisine is par none. There can be other forms of biryani, but nothing beats Bengali biryani. Because of my Irish ancestry, I already have a natural predilection to aloo. So that was a nice pairing, just sort of right off the bat. But I love food. I love literature. I love films. So I know that, it's been great to watch Bengali movies, to certainly read Bengali literature, and to make Bengali food together. Cooking together is something that we have a lot in common with. And it's something that's important to both of our respective families, food and culinary and togetherness. So the idea of sharing, and that's been a lot of fun. And in terms of Bengali language specifically, perhaps I'm just dunce, but I find it complicated. And I'm working. But I will say I try to keep in the Baba tradition. I do say chalo, let's go, to our son when it's time to get out the door. And I do love, like I said, I do love aloo and ada with Baba, and so I'm trying.
Yeah. I will say Jeff makes very good dal. It's one of my comfort foods. I love bhat, dal, aloo sheddo with the mustard oil and the green chilies and whatnot. And Jeff has really mastered that. So if I'm having a hard day, or if I know I'm going into, something complicated at work or something, and I just need a little comfort, I have Jeff here to make that for me. He's very kind.
You both are so cute, blushing. So the comfort is the aloo sheddo that Jamai has learned and mastered. Amazing. Now, would like to take your advice. Now, there are younger people, definitely not married yet, maybe. So, as a great couple, what would your advice and tips be to young people dating, yet to get married? What are the basic things one should kind of run in their mind or have a discussion before they say yes and get married? Because once they get married, it should be forever. So what would your tips be for younger people?
I have some friends that are younger who have been in this position, and someone had given me this advice, and I think it's true. I think one thing that's important to keep in mind is that when you marry someone, you're not just marrying that person in front of you. You're agreeing to marry and be committed to every iteration that person's going to become. Life will change you, and as people, we change. Obviously, we're not the same people now than we were 7 years ago. And 7 years from now, we're not going to be the same people that are before you all today. So when you're thinking about marrying someone, I think there has to be a question of, are you really prepared to not just marry the person in front of you today, but every version that person may become? I think that's particularly salient advice. And it's something I often give to younger people that I interact with. And then the other thing that was once told to me about marriage is that remember that it's not always 50-50. Sometimes it's 70-30. Sometimes it's 80-20. Sometimes you are the partner that is giving 80% and the other person is the partner who's giving 20, but that's not always permanent. And there may be a time or a circumstance where you're the partner who only gives 10% and your partner is giving 90%. And you have to be comfortable knowing that it's never going to be this transactional 50-50 split. And I think that's really helpful. And it pairs well, I think, with the first part of advice of that as things change, as your circumstance change, and as people change, sometimes the give-take dynamic will shift. And it'll shift from responsibilities, it'll shift from maintenance, it'll shift from work in the relationship, but whatever it is, it will shift. And you have to be comfortable with that and know that it may shift in the opposite direction sometime in the future.
It's very hard to follow up with whatever you're saying.
Well, it's because I have soft sciences. This is what the soft sciences can give.
No, because you're like speaking first and you're taking all the words out of my mouth. But okay. I mean, I think I'll say it's important to, and this sounds very cliche, but important to love and respect yourself before you look for another partner. Because if you cannot be happy with yourself, by yourself, alone, without anybody, that is not going to be fixed by another person. And then the second thing I'd say is, being with somebody for the right reasons, not doing it because it's culturally appropriate, because your parents want it, or because all your friends are getting married, but doing it because it is the right time for you at that point in your life. I think that's very important. And then the third thing I'll say, and this kind of maybe contradicts a little bit the spirit of what we're talking about. It's that don't hesitate to walk away from a relationship or a marriage if it's not right for you. There is no reason to stay in something that brings you pain just because it's culturally appropriate, just because you don't want to upset your friend circle or your parents or your family. I think these things are, these are difficult conversations to have, and we think of marriage as eternal, and it should be, and I think that's what it should be. But I think, I really think it's important to protect yourself and always be willing to walk away if you can. And for women especially, that's very important, having the financial independence to be able to walk away if that situation doesn't serve you anymore. And then just going to a little bit more positive, I'd say, is just, don't overthink it. I think there's just so many resources these days and I respect all of them, online dating, seeing how, analyzing relationships, etc. Just go. Sometimes it's good to go with the flow, preserve who you are, what you are. For me, it was important for me to preserve a little bit of my culture and my roots, and knowing that the person I'm with respects that. So figuring out what is important to you and what you need to preserve, and just knowing that the person you are with is going to, carry through that little part of you as you guys move forward.
If I may, just Ritama had started earlier by being very friendly towards tech. And due respect to my brother-in-law's industry, I might be a little anti-tech here, and just say that clearly there is a not always helpful force in the guise of social media. And I think as you're evaluating your relationship status or your partner or what you want, it's really important to have those conversations about you and them and what you guys may want together and whatnot, and not be biased or swayed by what you're seeing on social media. I think we all scroll on social media platforms, and sometimes we have a tendency to say, well, maybe, we let that dictate what should be in our decision making. And I just would maybe offer some word of caution that it shouldn't. And Ritama and I are going through this, not obviously through relationships, but with parenting. There are lots of opinions on social media about what to do as a parent or how to be a parent or what works and doesn't work. And we can walk away maybe feeling a little dejected or a little not proud of ourselves. And I think a lot of that is just clutter and noise that's best to just kind of maybe set aside and really kind of go back to the basics of you, your partner, your family, what it is that you want, what works for you, etc.
Amazing. I think we can actually have endless conversation, but time is limited. So I really take this opportunity to thank you both for sharing so many great words and messages for everybody to follow. So what would be your last message to everybody watching now or later?
Well, you wanted to go first.
You're just a piece of cake. Nothing. Thank you so much for inviting us. I hope, whoever is watching enjoyed this little slice of our life. We are certainly not perfect. But I think what we have works. And, I like to think I'm very grateful for my life. And I have a lot of gratitude towards my partner, my son. And I'm just happy that I could share that with you guys. And I wish everyone the best in life and love.
I'm very proud of our story, and this has been a real honor to get to share it with you all today. I echo that I hope something positive can be gleaned from it. And I'm really, truly am honored and blessed to get to be a part of a world that, wasn't my own, and to continue to learn and grow with such an amazing person. So thank you.
I must say that you both are so amazing, and God has chosen the best for each other. And I think that I also take this opportunity to thank the parents of both your sides. I think only when we have great parents, we have great kids like you. And Jeff, Ritama, you both are amazing. I wish you both endless sunshine and a world of happiness for you both. And of course, Jude, he is the cutest bundle I know, and may the best follow. Thank you so very much. Thanks once again. And I hope you both are back to India soon and we get to spend some time. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.
पहले आउटफिट के साथ ज्वेलरी मैच करना सच अ टास्क, पर अब थैंक्स टू सेंको स्टाइल एक्सपर्ट्स मुझे मिल गया है ज्वेलरी स्टाइलिंग का परफेक्ट चीट कोड। उन्होंने मेरे फेस शेप के हिसाब से कुछ ऐसे डिजाइन सजेस्ट किए जो मेरे लुक को और भी एनहांस करते हैं, जैसे कि इयररिंग्स और ये भी परफेक्ट ना। अब मैं हूँ हमेशा ज्वेलरी रेडी।